Before we unlock the vault of history, make sure you have unlocked that subscribe button.
The year was 1929. It was the year the Roaring Twenties came to a screeching, devastating halt. The stock markets crashed, economies shattered, and the illusion of infinite progress was broken. But for us, nearly a century later, 1929 has just been reborn. As of January 1st, 2025, the creative output of that tumultuous year has finally entered the public domain. The copyright locks have broken. The works of Faulkner, Hemingway, and Woolf are no longer owned by corporations or estates. They belong to history. They belong to you. But this isn't just about free books. The class of 1929 represents a singular moment in human history. It was the year literature decided that the old ways of telling stories, beginning, middle, and end, were no longer sufficient. Reality was breaking, and so the writers broke the rules of language to match it.
If we are to talk about breaking reality, we must begin in the American South with William Faulkner and his magnum opus, The Sound and the Fury. Published in October 1929, just weeks before the market crash, this novel is notoriously difficult. Faulkner realized that a lineal story could not capture the decay of the Compson family. Instead, he deployed the stream of consciousness technique. The first section is told through the eyes of Benji, a man with significant cognitive disabilities who experiences all time as the present moment. Past and present collide in a single sentence. It was a radical rejection of Victorian order. Faulkner wasn't just writing a story, he was simulating the chaos of the human mind. He demanded the reader work, piecing together the narrative shards, just as the characters tried to piece together their broken lives. In 2025, you can now remix this text. You can rearrange the shards yourself. But the question remains, can you make sense of the noise?
While Faulkner was complicating sentences, Ernest Hemingway was stripping them to the bone. Also in 1929, Hemingway published A Farewell to Arms. Based on his experience in the Italian campaigns of the First World War, this novel cemented Hemingway's Iceberg Theory, the idea that the dignity of movement of an iceberg is due to only 1/8 of it being above water. He omitted the emotions, he omitted the internal monologue. Why? Because after the horrors of the Great War, abstract words like glory, honor, and courage felt obscene to the modernist generation. They wanted the hard, cold facts. Faulkner broke reality by exploding it. Hemingway broke it by silencing it. Across the Atlantic, in October 1929, Virginia Woolf published an essay that would shift the tectonic plates of literary criticism forever, A Room of One's Own. Woolf wasn't writing fiction in the traditional sense. She was writing a polemic. She famously argued that a woman must have money and a room of her own if she is to write fiction. She exposed the material conditions required to create art. It wasn't just about genius, it was about access. By entering the public domain, Woolf's words are now free from the very gatekeepers she critiqued. Her text is now truly common property, accessible to anyone with an internet connection, regardless of their financial status. But 1929 wasn't just about highbrow literature. It was the year mass media began to swallow the world. In the funny pages of 1929, Elsie Sager introduced a side character named Popeye the Sailor. Simultaneously, in Belgium, Hergé published the first collected volume of Tintin in the land of the Soviets. These characters, Popeye, Tintin, became the new mythology. While the modernists were deconstructing reality, the comic strips were reconstructing it into bright, consumable icons. This tension between the difficult high art and the accessible mass culture was defined in 1929. And now, thanks to public domain laws, you can legally place Popeye in the middle of a Faulkner novel if you so choose. The barriers are gone.
This brings us to a critical theory, the death of the author, proposed by Roland Barthes in the 1960s. Barthes argued that a writer's intentions don't matter, only the reader's interpretation does. Public domain is the legal realization of that theory. When The Sound and the Fury entered the public domain, William Faulkner lost his final grip on the text. He can no longer sue you, he can no longer correct you. The text is an orphan, and we are its new parents. This is the ultimate democratization of language. The author god is dead. Long lived the reader.
Why does the class of 1929 matter today? Because we too are living in a time of fractured reality. We face our own economic uncertainties, our own global tensions, and our own technological disruptions. The writers of 1929 didn't look away from the chaos. They invented new languages to describe it. Faulkner, Hemingway, Woolf. They taught us that when the world breaks, art must transform to pick up the pieces. Now that these tools are free for us to use, it is your turn to describe our broken world. What masterpiece will you create from the public domain? If you want to understand the mechanics of literature and how to wield language like the masters, subscribe to Amplift 7. We don't just read the books. We decode the source code of human thought.
If you believe art should be free, hit that like button and tell us in the comments which classic book is actually terrible or unreadable. Let the debate begin below.